Hey everyone, and welcome back to Fine Print. This is episode 5 of the Fireside Chats, and today we welcome Mr. Householder, who will be talking about the isms of history, their true meaning, and how they're commonly misused in today's politics-central world. I personally have gained immense insight from this podcast and recommend it to everyone, and especially students entering the world of voting and politics. Join us for an incredibly interesting and informational podcast, only on Fine Print.
My name's Dave Householder. I am a U.S. History, AP U.S. History, and AP European History teacher at Travis High School in Fort Bend ISD, Texas. And I was your AP U.S. History and AP Euro teacher.
All right, so welcome, Mr. Householder. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, for the first question I have for you, just to set like a basic understanding of today's topic for our listeners, can you briefly explain the basic facts of key ideologies like capitalism, communism, anarchism, and socialism?
Just to kind of give a baseline for these terms, capitalism is the pursuit of capital, right? It's the idea that the fruits of one's belongs to the individual who produced it, and that individual is free to do with it what they please. It's strongly tied to concepts like private property, wealth protection, and things like that. Communism is pretty much the response to capitalism. Communism takes a collective approach when it comes to wealth and the accumulation of resources, and they view capital as not necessarily a good thing, and they want to divide the fruits of labor amongst society. And so, what communism and capitalism kind of do is they answer the question, what should we do with the fruits of labor? Then we get to anarchism. Anarchism is a little bit less of an economic system and a little bit more of a political system where there really is no official form of government. Anarchism is one of the most confusing isms, but anarchism isn't so much the absence of authority. It's the idea of a collectivist authority, right? So it's the idea that like a group of people can get together and mutually protect each other, mutually barter and trade with each other, and they don't have to have any kind of like ruling, authority above them to provide for safety or to provide for rule, because the idea is that the mutual associations of people will get together and provide those services for those people who are in the collective. And then we get to socialism, is a much more broader sort of term, I would say that like socialism is a little bit better of a quote opposite of capitalism, in as much as socialism really aims to guide the fruits of labor and wealth and such to society, to benefit society at large, as opposed to the individual. So socialism is kind of a very broad term, and communism is just sort of an ideology that sort of hangs down underneath it.
Thank you for explaining all of those. I think it kind of gave a very clear definition for people that might have had some questions about any of those four. And I think I had a question myself when you mentioned the definition of anarchism. So I know we learned in Euro, at least, that, or even APUSH, that John Locke, he wanted popular sovereignty and he believed that people could govern themselves. But of course, he didn't mention that there should be no government. But I do remember him saying that whenever the government gets too powerful, like since it's the government's job to protect the people, if the people feel like their needs aren't being represented, they can overthrow the government do you think he would agree with having no government at all, or like how would he lean on this?
That's a great question, and admittedly, I have not read enough Locke uh, to uh, to to suitably answer that. But if I was sort of forced to answer it, I would imagine that John Locke, even though he kind of famously advocated the idea of overthrowing an unjust government. I think the implicit result of this was that they establish a new government, right? The idea here is that like a government is necessary. It's just that we need John Locke would say that we need a government that is for the people and by the people, and looks out for the people's best interests, most importantly. Now, I would imagine that during his time, if anybody seriously talked of anarchism, they would probably be not very well looked upon by society.
Yeah.
But if I mean, like if he was sort of like magically transported into like the mid 1800s or the late 1800s, I would imagine that he would probably find kindred spirits with a lot of that mentality. Then again, I mean, for his time, John Locke was a radical, but it would be kind of hard to say like how he would feel about it. I mean, we'd have to do a lot more. I would have to do a lot of research to that
Yeah.
question.
That's
Totally,
fair.
but
That's fair. Yeah,
yeah.
because I think it's kind of cool to see how like political parties and like ideologies like transform over time. Like I think I remember you mentioning in class that modern day capitalism, modern day liberalism is very different. It's almost very close to being the opposite of what those things were back in the day when they were founded.
Oh,
So,
certainly, yeah. Like classical liberalism and modern liberalism,
yeah.
right? Yeah, modern classical liberalism, in my personal opinion, right, to me seems a lot closer to what people identify as some of the hallmarks of like modern conservatism, especially economically. Whereas modern liberalism is a lot more kind of associated with the Democrats these days. But yeah, like if you were to magically transport somebody from back then who was a classical liberal to today, that they would probably align themselves with the right more than the left. And they probably wouldn't call themselves a liberal anymore either, considering the modern connotation of it. Yeah.
So I think kind of building off of what you just said, would you say that these ideologies are more tied to human emotion or human rationality?
Oh, that is an incredibly deep question. So we kind of have to understand that when humans make decisions, they do it first with their gut, with their instincts, right? Like with their lizard brain. That's when you see something, you make an immediate judgment call, based off of a great number of factors: your upbringing, your genetics, your socioeconomic level, your race, things like that. Um, and then only after you make that decision do you actually rationalize it. The job of the prefrontal cortex there, that portion of our brain that does the rational thinking, oftentimes, I mean, it's just kind of playing catch up for our amygdala, the part of our brain that does make those judgment calls. So that being said, I would say that ideologies oftentimes will start off as emotional reactions, right? I mean, because everything is a reaction to something. I mean, a lot of the isms that we're even talking about right now were really just a reaction to industrialism. And so I believe that when these early thinkers who we kind of attribute to a lot of these isms, I think what they did was they saw industrialism, and they saw its effects on society. It saw its effects on the individual. It saw they saw its effects on national economies and things like that. And they made sort of knee-jerk reactions. They said, what, anarchism, or what, socialism. And then only after a period of time did they develop those into like rational isms. I mean, it would be amazing to know how many isms were thought of that went nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And we have early examples of that. The early socialist utopians, like Robert Owens, and those guys, they had a vision, and their vision, that utopian socialism did not survive in the in the wild jungles of the isms, right? Like, right, survival of the fittest, right? They were
Yeah.
not the fittest one, the fittest isms. So, but getting back to your question, I would have to say that, like, in my opinion, uh, not because they're isms, but just because they are human thoughts, that they start off as emotions, and then over time they survive because of their appeal to our rational sides.
Yeah, I agree with what you said because when I was taking like notes, like I was taking like small notes for each question, kind of just to like brainstorm my thoughts, and I think that was one of the things I wrote down that like we latch on to an ideology because of our emotions, and then we justify why we latched on to it like by using logic and statistics and facts. Because I think like emotion drives a lot of what we do. Like you said, the lizard brain, like we like to use real like rational things like ideologies to justify maybe our like unrealistic actions sort of. And like I think one of the things I took note of is that whenever like for example if someone's a communist, right, like communism was started by Karl Marx, but the like any communist supporter today, he's not Karl Marx. He doesn't have the exact thoughts and feelings and experiences as Karl Marx. So it feels like they're kind of fitting themselves into this kind of like this mold that Marx made for himself. And that's why I was like, maybe if you asked every person on the world to make their own ideology, we'd have one for every person and they would all overlap. So it feels like sometimes when we try to ask ourselves what political party we belong in or which ideology we support, it's like that ideology came from someone else and we're not 100% that person to feel the same way they did. Like, I think in reality, a lot of us are just combinations of like 5 or 6 different ideologies. And I think that's where it gets hard for people to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. There, the idea that, and that therein lies like like kind of the inherent problem of isms. So I mean, with like when you come up with an ism, like you have kind of like this impossible task, because you're taking this idea that you have in your brain, and it exists without any imperfections. It exists without the real world getting in the way. It exists without people, right? Like like that's the thing. We live in an equation with like 300 billion variables, and it's constantly trying to solve for zero, which is impossible. And so when you come up with an ism, yeah, it looks great in your brain, it looks great on paper, it looks great in the manifesto, and then like and then, dear God, you got to actually apply it to like the real world, and that is where the rubber hits the road. And if your ism does not appeal to at least, I mean, it's got to appeal to a broad range of people. It's got to appeal to the undereducated, because we live in a society, and this is something that's we've had since the mid 1800s, but mass-based political parties. Like these isms have to appeal to the masses, and both you and I know that, like, that sometimes you've got to appeal to the basest of masses, right? And then on the flip side of that coin, you have to appeal to the overeducated, right? You have to appeal to the sophists and the people who think that they know everything. And so that really sets a very high barrier for the lifespan of a really good ism. Because you've got to, first of all, you've got to be emotional. You've got to appeal to the emotions. Then you have to appeal to the reasonable side, and then you have to have something that like might even work. And yeah, so isms are incredibly difficult to nail down. I read a really good quote. I think it's even on the Wikipedia article. It said that trying to define fascism is like trying to nail Jello to the wall. You just can't do it. It's hard to define, right? Like, I mean, historians are like, even like right now, I can guarantee you, in some like dusty like corner of the internet, there's 2 historians that are just like knocked down, bloody, dragged out, fighting over the definition of like capitalism, and some legendary jousting match between these two great intellectual minds over something that most people just kind of like, it's capitalism, like, what I'm talking about, but no, they're going to find out the exact definition of it. And so that's why isms, and when we were talking about the content of this podcast, just isms is just such a nebulous concept, that it makes it really hard to pin down, and I will admit that, kind of coming into this, I was thinking, oh my God, like I need to get my definitions right, like, I can't look like a fool on this. But I found myself with a little bit of anxiety because nothing, like I guarantee you somebody's going to hear this and they're going to be like, oh my God, this dude's an idiot, And so it is what it is, right? It's isms, and
Yeah.
and if you know anything about it, it's difficult to talk about.
It's like even if you explain it to me one way, and then if I try to go tell my parents about it right now, like I can guarantee there was some loss of information and then some gain of information that wasn't there. And it's like, it's just up to everyone's interpretation on like how they see that ideology and how they apply it to their own life. Like someone could be out there and say they're a liberal, but they only apply certain parts of it to their life as they see fit. And they're not willing to accept like the harder parts of it or like the more controversial parts of it. So I think, like there's probably someone listening to us thinking we're completely wrong and we don't know what we're saying.
Right. And that, and that's okay. Right. Like, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is that, and that's why, and again, that's why isms kind of work, because they serve as an X factor unto themselves. Right. Like you can look outside and you can say, hey, I'm a whatever, I'm a capitalist, I'm a communist, whatever. And like, and people will automatically, like, they won't even really question it. They'll just be like, oh, you're a communist. Okay. But like, that helps them label you, so they don't have to think deeply about whatever position you might have, right? And even though I might be a particular brand of capitalist that believes a certain flavor of that ism, but humans love labels. I mean, that's kind of what we do. That's our jam, and we love labeling things. So that makes it easier for us to digest those things, and that's why isms work so great, because the person doing the thinking doesn't have to think all that much. They can just say, oh, communism, that looks cool, let me pick that up and wear that shirt. Or capitalism, hey, I love that, now I'm a capitalist. And it takes the burden off of thinking sometimes, both from them and the person that they're presenting themselves to. So yeah, like you said, that loss of information oftentimes serves as a convenience.
Okay, so I think we can now get into the biggest part of today's podcast, I would say. I know this is one of your favorite topics to talk about. I remember that like 15, 16 slide PowerPoint about this. So I want to take a slight tangent and get into fascism. Could you define it kind of like you defined the other ones? And then how would you say we've misused the term today?
So, I've taught history. I've taught AP level history for 20 years, and fascism is always, hands down, the most complicated topic to approach, because for so many different reasons. I mean, first of all, everybody thinks they know what fascism means, and a lot of people do, right? And it's so subjective, and historians and political philosophers, I mean, a lot of very, very smart people have devoted millions of hours to trying to hammer down what fascism really is. And the problem is, the problem, like, this is before I even define it, right? But the problem with defining it is the fact that, like, it's really only happened like a couple of times in history, okay? Like, think about kings, right? Like we know what kings are. There's been hundreds, possibly thousands of kings all throughout history. There's been hundreds and hundreds of presidents and all the, there's all these like we have millions of data points of all these other like historical concepts and political concepts and all this other stuff. then we get to fascism, and fascism was one of the most it was one of the most game-changing isms of the 20th century, and and we only have like two or three, maybe four data points on that, and which is an incredibly anemic number. So it's very difficult for us to define what fascism is, because each one of those things, each one of those systems that historians like to point to, they were all slightly different in some ways. So I would say that like I don't know. I mean, I would say that historians and political philosophers, like, we understand about what maybe like 90% of what fascism looked like, and there's probably some other parts out there that like maybe we haven't fully defined, but how would I define fascism, right? Like, so you kind of gave me a heads up before this podcast on some of the questions that you'd be asking. So I really did agonize over this for a little while. And I was like, okay, well, what kind of definition am I going to give here? Because this is like, this is going to set the tone. And so I just went to Google and I said, okay, what is fascism, right? I felt like some desperate AP Euro student the night before quiz. Let me make sure I know what I'm talking about, right? So fascism truly is just an amalgamation of like, probably, depending on who you talk to, I mean, you can have upwards of like 15 or 16 different facets of what it takes to like identify something as being fascist. But to really boil it all down, like all of these instances of fascism that we really had in the past, they're far right, they're authoritarian, right? They're ultra nationalistic, like over the top nationalism, right? Like, and they co-opt the corporate capitalist state into an arm of the war machine. And you remember this from our class, but like it's super easy to just boil things down in like political, social, economic, right? Like those are kind of the three pillars of what we talk about in social sciences. So what is it politically, right? Like politically is fascism is ultra reactive. It is a reaction to a great number of things, which we could talk about here in a second. Socially, it is very exclusive, right? There's an inside group and there's an outside group, so it is incredibly exclusive. And then we get to economic, which I kind of talked about before, where the state sort of like co-ops corporate capitalism into into a branch of the military, really, in a lot of ways, in order to glorify the state. So yeah, had me define fascism, like it would take me an hour to do it, and I probably wouldn't even like get it all right at the same time. But yeah, so I would say that's what fascism really is boiled down to, those kind of three main elements.
I say we pull up the Euro PowerPoint. I think it's time.
It's time.
Unleash the demon.
Funny story, you should mention that, but I actually left my USB drive at work and I do not have it on me, and I feel pretty embarrassed for that. It was a pretty
good PowerPoint, though, I will say.
It was amazing. There's just 16 slides dedicated to the explanation of what fascism is. So it's brutal. It is definitely brutal.
So I was looking into fascism a bit, and I noticed, or maybe I guess I just didn't come across it, like, does fascism have one founder? Or is it just, like, an event happen and then we label it fascism?
Yeah, and I mean, historically speaking, Benito Mussolini wrote, what is fascism, right? Like, he kind of popularized the term. And fascism, the root word is fasces, which is the ancient Roman symbol of an axe surrounded by a bundle of sticks, which symbolized like authority of the state. And that was what the senators carried around in Rome to as symbols of their position. And so Mussolini, being a big fan of Rome and the Roman Empire, co-opted that symbol as his own personal sort of symbol for his movement, and they're fascist, the fascist movement. So I would say that like the individual who popularized it was Mussolini. Now Hitler quickly adopted it, obviously, Francisco Franco, and to some degree, like it was also sort of like developing similarly in Japan. There were some key differences, but looking at it in context, right? Like fascism just kind of grew out of the invention of things like radio, right? Like mass communication. It grew out of like growing military technologies. Better tanks and stuff like that, and then obviously things like the Great Depression assisted all of that. So it's kind of one of those things where we can point at Mussolini and say he was the guy that popularized it, but he didn't really invent it. And I'm sure in the future we'll be able to point at future systems of government and be like, yo, that was fascist too, So yeah, I mean, especially Mussolini, but even that's kind of nebulous.
Like communism was founded by like two people, very distinct. They had their manifesto. Fascism was not like that, right? Like you said, Mussolini kind of had that, but did he also like write something about it or document this?
Yeah, so Mussolini, let me pull it up. So the doctrine of fascism, right? 1932, he says that everything in the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Those three pillars really define like his fascism, and truly it defined what Hitler was doing as well, like almost exactly. So he wrote the handbook, the Doctrine of Fascism, 1932.
Well, would you say there's a reason, or maybe it's just me, but I've heard the Communist Manifesto, but I haven't heard about this one as much. Like, is there a reason one's more popular than the other? Especially because, like,
Yeah.
I guess during Mussolini's time, there was some form of media that was starting to get available.
Oh, absolutely. So fascism, I mean, and it might be unpopular to kind of say it, but it is a far right ideology, and conservatism, it is a reactionary ideology. And so the thing is that like communism ultimately being a progressive ideology. Okay. So now we're looking at progressivism and reactionism. Okay. So progressivism is the idea that, hey, we can work together, we can try all these things, they might not work, but like we can include everybody and make everybody's life better, everybody. Whereas like reactionism, oftentimes, especially in the 20th century, is the ideology of, hey, things are changing way too quickly and we don't like that, and we need to return back to something we felt safe in, and kind of like reassess everything. And so when you talk about fascism, like when people look at things that are happening like even today and they think, oh, that's fascist, right? Like really what you're doing is you're pointing at a group of people who are reacting to something. People often point to those types of ideology and say, oh, that's fascist. And so but what we're pointing to is that we're pointing to reactionaries. Whereas communism and a lot of that progressive ideology, it's very like hopeful and scientific based, and it's this idea that like, hey, through reason and through application of like scientific principles and all that sort of stuff, we can achieve a better tomorrow where everybody's included. So I think that like that's why we really didn't see all that much fascism, like official fascism throughout time, because place fascism into context. There was the Treaty of Versailles, there was the Great Depression, right? So I mean, those were like earth like shaking events that occurred to those people. So they reacted in that way. Whereas with communism, it's usually some people sitting around saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then like they start doing it, and then communism happens. It's not like an earth-shattering event.
Got it. Okay.
Usually intellectuals or something.
Yeah. All right. So in today's politically polarized world, do you believe when people say that they're neutral? And what do you think is the difference between being neutral and being a centrist?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question. Look, I think in today's political world, Like, I don't think there's neutral people. I mean, you've got a strong opinion either way, and I believe that's by design. But that's probably a completely different podcast. But I think that people that say that they're neutral are probably not looking for a fight. They're not looking to anger anybody. They're just like, hey, that I think that's people's way of saying like, can we not talk politics? Which honestly I'm fine with. The man, politics have gotten so ugly. I mean, I like Hillary went to go vote one time, and I asked her who she voted for, and she looked at me and she said, "You're not supposed to ask people like who they. That's like people's politics is very personal, and you're not. So it's like their religion. You're not supposed to talk. And like." God, how much we've changed since then. When people say they're neutral, do I believe them? Sure, no, I don't, but I just think it's code for like, hey, let's not talk about it. They probably have a very deeply held, sincere opinion, and because I believe that everybody does, and they probably just don't want to get involved with it now. But now, on the other hand, when somebody says they're a centrist, right? Like to some extent, I think that's even more of a dubious answer because what you're saying here is that like is what you're saying is that you know I like things on both sides, right? Like there's this mantra that kind of comes with being a centrist, like, oh, I see truths in both sides. Well, what you're doing is, I believe, you're not really answering the question. You're not defining it, right? Because when people ask you like, hey, what's your political persuasion, right? Like what they're doing is they're trying to tribalize you. They're trying to determine like, hey, are you part of my tribe or are you part of the other tribe? And and to be quite honest, I mean, and maybe this is just me being old school, but like, to a lot of people, it's just none of your damn business. Like what I am politically is what I am. And not only that, like I reserve the right to change my opinions too, because sometimes new facts come out or sometimes things happen that cause me to change it. So if I tell you today that I'm whatever, I'm blank, that now you kind of have this idea in your head that, oh well, Mr. Householder is blank and that's who he is, right? But like, and that's not the case, because I can tell you, like, since I was, probably since I first even started caring about politics, like my sincerely held political beliefs have radically changed multiple times because of various factors. And I think that everybody should do that. I think that's healthy. And I think that like once you start identifying as something, you're kind of priced in. And there's this right, it's a sunk cost at that point. Like you have to defend yourself. The thing that I posted on Twitter at 16 needs to be still my identity at 45, because I don't want to be seen as a fool, and I think that's unhealthy. And I think that's part of the reason why we are where we are today. So to answer your question, I think that people that say that they're neutral and people that say that they're centrists, I think that I think like say what you believe, and talk to people and let them know that like this is what I believe today. It might be different tomorrow, but right now this is what I think, And maybe that honesty would be the key to getting us out of this political quagmire. I don't know.
And I think like how you mentioned like what you believe at 16 is very different from what you believe like later on in your life. Like, and then if you start defending that old version of yourself, it's like you start to question if you truly even believe that, or are you just defending it to like save your image in front of people? Because like I think people think that if your political beliefs change even a bit, oh, like you don't know how to like be firm, you don't know how to stand with your opinion, you don't know how to like not get affected by external sources. And people kind of see it as like a bad thing to change, which is why I feel like people are becoming more like rigid with what they believe. For example, like people that are centrist, like you mentioned, like they believe a bit of this, a bit of that. And it's like, maybe is it possible that they're not picking a side out of fear of that happening? Maybe picking a side and then wanting to change later on, and then people saying something in reaction to
Absolutely.
that.
I mean, like yeah, that's kind of the coward answer, right? And I'm sure that there's very intelligent centrists out there who can give me a very elegant and eloquent, accounting of their political values, and that's great, right? Like that's good. Like I would appreciate that, right? But but I think that too often people hide behind that centrist label. Right. And to kind of further your point, like, because we live in the internet age now, and because nothing is ever like fully deleted from the internet, you could have posted something at 16 that at the age of 46, you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like, that was so stupid. But because it's eternal now, like, that's part of your record forever, and so, yeah, like, and then you get into that anxiety of having to explain why you switched, and etc. So yeah, I think that the technologies that we surround ourselves with further complicate this matter.
Right. I think we can go ahead and start our rapid fire round now. So the way this is going to work is I'll just ask you a couple of questions, and don't think too much. Just give me the first answer that comes in your head.
Oh God. Okay. There's a trap in here, I'm sure.
If you had to create your own ism taking into account present day events, what would you call it and what would you define it as?
Oh, it'd be householderism for sure. And it would be exactly the way that I think and nothing else. And it would be great. And everybody would live in harmony, and so on. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, man. That's a tough question, right? I'm just some dude. I'm one data point, right? With like a limited amount of experience compared to what millions of other people, hundreds of millions of other people deal with every day. So, I don't know. Just be nice, be chill, like chillism, right? Just be kind to everybody, and put yourself in their shoes, and try not, and let people make mistakes and let people try things. And it's okay if people are wrong sometimes, as long as they admit their mistakes and move on, right? Just be chill. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah.
I agree. I'll join your political party. We need that, I think. All right. Fear or hope? Which one spreads an ideology faster?
Oh, fear by far. Like fear. Like I tell you what, walk down the street tonight in your neighborhood and like imagine a killer clown running down the street. Okay. And then I want you to imagine like a bundle of puppies like frolicking in a yard. Like which one elicits the response faster, right? Like yeah. Fear by far drives all of what we do. All of it. Yeah.
That's true. What's the hardest ism to teach in AP Euro or APUSH?
Fascism and communism, mostly because a lot of people think they know what they mean, and then when they get to my class and they find out that they've kind of been wrong often, that really throws them for a loop, and people hate it when they're wrong. And they hate changing what they know. So yeah, that's my task. Communism and fascism all day.
Do you think, I know we mentioned that as people get older, they become more like rigid and they're more afraid to like change their opinions. Would you say that's kind of like creeping into the younger generation, or would you say we're still pretty open to change?
I would say that because of technology. I don't think it's like a generational thing, right? Like I don't think it's anything that like, oh, everybody born after X year is like inheriting this gene. I just think it's technology. I think the fact that like, what you post now, oftentimes people believe that like that has to be your identity forever. Just for the reasons you gave earlier. So I think it's generational, yes. But I also think that like it's more technological than generational. But just because your generation is younger and because you use technology in a very different way than my generation did and does, that I think that counts for the difference.
So I think kind of building off of that like technology thing, what is a common misconception you would say about ideologies? Would you say it's kind of caused by technology?
Maybe. I would say that isms and technology have always been deeply intertwined, right? Just because technology has been intertwined in our lives, as in the human experience, which isms, humans create the isms and technology affects what we create. So I would say that like the most common misconception would be that like that you can easily define them and that they are simple things. They're very complex things. And it's really a trap. And again, we live in a society today where isms, where people that believe that isms are rigid, I think we do that to our own peril.
Yeah.
So I would say that the biggest misconception is that we believe we understand them.
I think it's kind of like, do you want the short answer or the long answer? And the short answer is always wrong because you can never explain it like concisely. You have to like sit down, go into the book, go into the facts, and actually explain someone. And you'd probably still
Yeah,
get it wrong.
yeah, exactly, right. Even then, so and that's the problem.
Like at this point, I think we just need to like video call or like go back into the past and like get to see what was in their brain to actually understand. Because I don't think any of us could really or accurately explaining, like they're probably looking down upon us and they're like, yeah, that was not what I meant at all.
And you're probably right, but even then though, like how could Karl Marx have dreamt of the internet? Look at what we are doing right now. This is something that like was literally impossible. Like you here you are, the citizen journalist, right? Like making things happen. Like it would blow his mind. I mean, he might have to rewrite the entire manifesto just by watching this podcast.
Would you say misinformation through social media is more or less dangerous than the propaganda of the past?
Oh, I would say it's slightly more dangerous, and again, not because only because of the technology, right? Like back in the day, like I grew up in an age where if you had to be put onto something in analog fashion. Like if I wanted to read about communism, I had to go to the library and I had to hope that they had a Communist Manifesto copy in the library. If I want to learn about any of this stuff, like I had to dig deep. But now I can sit on my couch and I could like drink up, hundreds of years of like anarchist philosophy on my couch in between episodes of Big Brother. Like this is the world that we live in. So propaganda, the mechanism in which propaganda enters your brain is so much easier. It's so much ubiquitous now. So yeah, I would say that it's more. And again, I point Exhibit A. Look at our political world. Like this is it. This is the results of social media. And every huge revolution, every huge change that's ever occurred in human has always been preceded by a huge technological change. Renaissance, Protestant Reformation, like you name it, right? Like all of them have always, like, big changes have always come whenever technology changes. And we are in the middle of something huge right now. And we're still staring at the trees and we don't know how big the forest is, but future historians, maybe your grandchildren, when they become historians, they'll be able to point to this time period and go, that was it, that was the reason why.
Yeah, and I think like when it comes to social media, like recently, looking at like Zoran Mamdani's campaign, like I think I've believed since the day he got elected that like a huge part of it was his social media. Like I remember not knowing who this guy was until like I used to see his reels and his videos on Instagram, and I think like that especially appealed to the younger audience, because I remember like seeing a video he uploaded on like a Bollywood song, and I'm sure that appealed to like all the Indian aunties and uncles out there. I'm positive like social media plays such a big part, because it's like it's not just his message, it's also like the colors he's using or like the music he puts in the background. Like all these things like mess with our brain. Versus like just looking at like a newspaper, I don't know how effective that was compared to like the dopamine rush we get today from social media. Or like that was one of the key moments of social media and politics that I remember, like in recent times at least. Like I would say Mamdani's campaign. Like I'm sure there were a bunch of other factors. There were. But like social media was huge. Like I don't think I've seen a political leader use it that heavily and like use it that well. At least until I saw a video where someone analyzed his poster, and she was some like marketing, or I think she was some marketing person. She was like, okay, see, the yellow he used is the same yellow on the Metro card, so it relates to people in New York. And it's like all these things kind of just influence you to vote or like believe a certain way, and you don't even realize that's what they're doing until much later on.
You're right. I mean, and that's, isms are uploaded into our brain, and again, we see them, and then we have this knee-jerk gut feeling reaction to them, and then we rationalize them later. And what politicians have found out is that they can influence that quick gut feeling reaction by color, by sound, by all of these things that you just described, you know. And so to answer the question, yes, social media and the technologies that we have today have only made it easier for us to be influenced, for the better, for the worse.
So, what would you say is your favorite historical movie of all time?
Oh man, oh god, I mean, it's being a student of history, like it's so hard for me to watch like historical movies. I mean,
They all probably suck.
they do, and you know, but I mean, so I like the ones I enjoy. Like I love The Patriot was always super entertaining. Gangs of New York. I love Gangs of New York. You know, set in the late 1800s. Probably those two. If I had to nail like a historical quote movie, one of those two, just off the top of my head. Although now that I'm thinking about it, probably a lot of the movies I saw as a kid that were about current events are probably now historical in nature. So I don't know. But
Yeah, I think everything's moving faster now.
Have you seen Gangs of New York? It's
No,
amazing.
I haven't.
You should put it on your list.
What is it on?
Oh,
platform?
God only knows. I mean, it was a movie from like the 90s. It is Martin Scorsese. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
Okay.
Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, it's a masterpiece.
Hopefully their views go up after this episode. Like I hope everyone that's listening just goes and watches this.
I hope so too.
What is one mistake you see Gen Z making when it comes to politics?
Oh God. I mean, what are they doing? Like what? I mean, oh no. I mean, I say that like you know. I mean, right now it seems like the main driver of politics are people over the age of 70, you know. So I think that their story is yet to be written. It's going to be interesting to see what you know what's the term, the iPad children, right?
Oh,
like
God.
right, like what are they going to do? Right? Like how, like what kind of seeds were planted to them in their innocent little cartoons that are going to grow to something big later, right? Like so as far as mistakes are concerned, they have not erred yet.
If you had to give today's generation of voters one piece of advice when it comes to politics, what would that be?
Vote with your heart. Like just vote, be nice. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. You know, like think about what it's like to be poor. Think about what it's like to be somebody who's not you. Again, you're one data point. We have hundreds of millions of people in the United States, and you're just one data point. So yes, obviously take your experiences into account, but like try to think about society as a whole, and try to think about like what can we do to make this world a better place? Because right now we have a lot of systems in place that are making life very difficult for a lot of people, and if we can change those systems, like things will get exponentially better. That's what I would say. That's fine.
I agree. This sounds like householderism propaganda.
It is, right?
It's lining up with what you said like 10 minutes ago.
Right? And that's the problem, right? Like how are we art or are we the artist?
And then for the last question, and probably the question all your students listening have, APUSH or AP Euro, which do you enjoy teaching more?
Oh yeah, that's like asking me who my favorite child is, right? Like I love them both for very different reasons. APUSH is great. I do love Euro for different reasons. I mean, I love Euro because like usually they're smaller classes. Usually those are kids that like history, or like me, who signed up as, because senior year you could have had an off period. You could have done anything, but instead you chose to sit in a freaking AP history class. So usually those are my students. Those are my kids that I normally vibe with the most, and we usually have a lot of fun. So I mean, AP Euro probably. I really love it.
Yeah, I personally I think I mentioned this to you, but I wasn't looking forward to APUSH, and I think I liked it like 10 times more than I imagined, especially because I think coming out of WAP, I really enjoyed like learning about different cultures and like traditions around the world. And I was like, oh, great, like US history. I mean, we learned this in 5th grade, we learned it in 7th grade. We're back again.
Great. Yeah,
But
here we
like,
are.
it's like I don't think people realize how much is hidden in one event. Because like in elementary school, they just tell you one thing. And high school is like, yeah, everything you learn is wrong. We're gonna relearn it.
Here's why. Yeah.
Like, I think it like refines your understanding of like basic events, which is like super important. And then Euro was just a bunch of kings with the same names, and that was a huge struggle.
Yeah, no, it was. It can be. But I mean, look, it spawned an entire podcast.
It did, yeah.
You know, all isms.
Well, Mr. Householder, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the
you so
podcast
much.
today.
Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed having this conversation, and I genuinely learned a lot. Like, I think we really went into detail about some of the isms and like politics today, politics in the past. And I think people are really gonna like this episode as well. So, how was your experience today?
Oh, this was fantastic. You know, it's rare that I get to just go off, and you gave me the platform to kind of just do that on. So I definitely appreciate that. And you know, you were always one of my most brilliant students. Honestly, historically minded, very very forward thinking. So I can't just do this with all my students, right? Like, so you're definitely one of the few that I can, and I thank you for the opportunity.
And that's all for today's episode on the Fireside Chats. Today, we spoke to Mr. David Householder, an AP US and European history teacher, about the isms of modern-day society, their historical roots, and misconceptions regarding them. Until next time, keep following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Instagram at fineprint.pod. Until then, keep reading between the lines.